guys, it's Will Potato Strong. I wanted to talk about the recent WHO finding that processed meat and red meat causes cancer. One of the things that people said was, even though it was in the same category as smoking and asbestos, that the risk of smoking was so much higher than eating processed meat, and they've kind of minimized it in the news and a lot of people that were commenting. One important factor that I wanted to mention in this video, I got the idea from this post here on the Huffington Post. I'll put a link below in the description, is that you got to look at the studies. And one of the reasons why I'm doing videos, and I'll talk about something later, is I want people to look at the studies, more than they are. Like, a lot of people are looking at Time Magazine and various blogs, and everyone's just sort of sending links back and forth. But when you actually look at the studies and you start to understand them, how they're designed and stuff like that, you can see some of the problems. And this goes into, the Eat More Butter campaign. You can start looking at the meta-analysis that were done on these studies and actually see what happens in these studies to distort the truth. And one of the important things with the processed meat, red meat, I found really important to mention. People are saying that smoking is a lot more risky than eating processed meat. And one of the important factors is that when they looked at smokers to evaluate the risk, they compare those people to non-smoking. So you've got non-smokers who don't smoke at all, and then you've got these smokers. And that's going to show quite a large risk increase by smoking. But when you look at processed meat and red meat and trying to figure out the risk of eating processed meat, you're actually comparing that. In these studies, the majority of the studies were comparing people who ate processed meat and red meat and other people who ate meat as well. So you're not going to get a big difference between the people who eat, just meat, chicken, fish, stuff like that, and then people who eat more red meat and processed meat. So you're comparing two sort of similar situations, two similar diets. And, a lot of us who've looked at the science understand that it's not just red meat and processed meat that increases the risk of cancer, but fish. I mean, you've got the saturated fats, you've got heme iron, you've got, in the fish, you've got metals like mercury and PCBs, toxic chemicals. And so, chicken, same sort of scenario. It's the animal products. The dairy has the casein and things like that. So when you're comparing people who eat processed meat and red meat to another group, if you compared those people to vegans, the difference would be you would have a larger difference, a larger increase in risk. So the risk is kind of minimized even with this WHO study. And you can see here they say, and I'll show you a link in a bit here. Studies have suggested that any animal product, red meat, processed meat, chicken, and dairy, increases the risk of certain types of cancers. So when you have to have a contrast in the two groups. So what they'll do is, like, if they want to show that, if the dairy industry or if the egg industry wants to show that eggs are healthy, what they'll do is they'll use people in the study that already have high cholesterol. And if you add a couple of eggs to that diet, it's not going to really make much difference. And then they'll say, well, there's no real increase in cholesterol from eating cholesterol. But if you actually took people who were vegans and you had them eat cholesterol, like eggs or something, you would see a large increase in the cholesterol in the blood. So that's a big, really important feature here. And just to reiterate that point, I've got I'm going to show you guys here in a second. I've got a page now called Nutrition Science on my website, and what I'm going to do, let me just go there. I'm going to encourage people to go to nutrition science page on my Potato Strong page, and then I've got it broken down by category. So you've got saturated fat, cholesterol, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, ALS. I'm going to add more categories over time, but it's good to go and look at the studies, and also it's not about one particular study. So I show some individual studies, and I'll probably add more, like the meta-analysis and that, which is a collection of studies. But what I want people to try to do is go to the study. That if you look at a blog and they talk about something, go look at the study, because there's been so many bad studies where they compare, high fat to a low fat diet, and the low fat's actually like 30%, and it still involves animal products. And that makes the product, the high fat group, look better in some cases, because they're not really differentiating the groups as much as they should. And it's really a deceiving way of setting up studies. So you really need to get to the study, and then you also need to understand some of the distortions. In the case of the meta-analysis that involved, like, say, eat more butter or saturated fat, what they did was they removed people through statistical analysis. They removed people who have high cholesterol. And so there's different factors, and they'll remove the cholesterol, the people with high cholesterol, and that takes, of course, out people that are going to be shown to have a relationship between saturated fat and heart disease, because you've removed those people. I mean, saturated fat goes with cholesterol when you eat meat and animal products. Saturated fat, cholesterol, protein, heme iron, it's all kind of lumped together. And so when they filter out people at a high cholesterol, of course, you're removing the people that have the high saturated fat. So then they'll show, oh, there's no relationship between saturated fat and heart disease. So it's very deceptive. That's one, what they call over-adjustment. That's one big important factor. So I'm trying to get people to look at the science. And then it's also not about one particular study, but it's a collection of studies over time. So there's a general consensus over time that more and more and more studies are showing saturated fat and cholesterol, saturated fat. So if you see one study that comes out and says, hey, there's no relationship between saturated fat and heart disease or something, assuming the study was done properly, it doesn't dismiss all the past studies all of a sudden. So scientists have a way of developing a consensus over time with the multitude of studies that are showing this. And you don't just look at one study and discount everything. It's just a collection of studies. And so I just wanted to point that out. I think it's really important that when we look at the risk, everyone's trying to minimize the risk of processed meats and red meat. And it's the risk is probably a lot higher than it's being shown, because they're comparing the people that eat that to to people that are still eating meat. And there's also other studies. There's animal studies and things like that. But that was kind of the key point that I wanted to make in this video. And so hope that helps you guys, and we'll talk to you in the next video. See ya.